What is also interesting with current controlled implosions is the need for a countdown, which is precisely what we have with Joshua's army encompassing the walls. Let me explain. Joshua's army is encompassing the city in a clock-like fashion, more so on the seventh day, almost as if it was some kind of a countdown. The book of Revelation corroborates with this observation also, where the number 7, 7 angels, 7 seals, and 7 plagues is used as a countdown to the final great battle of Armageddon, where Yahweh's faithful children of God will fight one last time and fulfill their ultimate destiny. One thing is for certain with a battle plan like this: the Israelites needed a mastermind like the captain, and they were a very capable army. They had captains, spies, an insider, the Ark of the Covenant, and God on their side. As advanced as they were, one must not speculate too much by suggesting they had cannons or anything of this nature. As useful as they may have been, they were unnecessary. One should always begin with the most elementary suggestions that might just as easily explain that which at first seems inexplicable. The city was built on a very large fault line, giving much credence to the earthquake theory. An earthquake is not mentioned, however, whereas they are very precisely mentioned in other books of the Bible when they occur. If it was an earthquake, and there is much evidence to believe that it was, then it certainly was not a naturally occurring one. It was controlled, triggered somehow, and was in no way a coincidence. People have often postulated that God's intervention, an earthquake at the correct time on the seventh day, is what made the walls fall. There is much evidence to support this, and, considering the geological conditions in this part of Israel and its notoriety of seismic activity, an earthquake is the most plausible explanation, which again would trigger a controlled implosion. If one could control the forces of nature, that is. Earthquake theory. Ironically, it appears the destruction of this ancient city, with the shaking of its foundations and collapse of its structures, is echoed throughout history. Earthquakes are commonplace in this part of the world, and at the Jericho site itself. The 1927 Jericho earthquake, measuring 6.2 to 6.25 on the Richter scale, destroyed several houses and hotels inside the city of Jericho, and the site and its surrounding areas suffered many casualties. Earthquakes frequently occur in the Bible to illustrate and emphasize very important events of which we have no power or control. Quite often they are associated with the utter destruction of sinful cities like Sodom, Gomorrah, and possibly Jericho. Other accounts of earthquakes in the Bible are mainly considered to be acts of God. A conveniently timed and precisely located earthquake allows Paul and Silas to escape from prison. Acts 16:26. Again in Acts 4:31, an earthquake accompanies the powerful voices of the faithful. Sound familiar? The stone that was rolled away to reveal the emptiness of the Lord's tomb is also said to have been due to an earthquake. An earthquake immediately follows the death of Christ on the cross. Matthew 27:51-54. The Qumran earthquake of 31 BC claimed tens of thousands of men in its devastation. The Day of the Lord earthquake of the prophet Amos is the largest known in the Holy Land, measuring a devastating 8.2 on the Richter scale. Amos 5:18-20. Korah and his men were destroyed by an earthquake because they had rebelled against the Lord. The Israelites were confounded by a great earthquake prior to Moses communicating with the Lord on Mount Sinai. Archaeological confirmation of a great catastrophic earthquake surrounding the Dead Sea reveals the alleged remains of Sodom and Gomorrah. An earthquake is also believed to be the cause of the great deluge in the age of Noah. And finally, the foundations of the earth were created by an earthquake in the book of Genesis, and we are warned of 3 enormous earthquakes also in the latter days. Revelation 6:12, 11:13, 16:18. Earthquakes are the perfect message to all civilizations that no matter what their foundations are built upon, man cannot escape the fact that they have all been built upon the foundations of an omnipotent God. 1 Corinthians 3:11. His foundations are the foundations of the earth and universe, of which he has absolute authority. And although Jericho's mammoth and intimidating walls are believed to have been built as a flood barrier, nothing could stop Joshua's flood of God-inspired soldiers from crashing through this ancient city and washing away all its defiant inhabitants that day. When an army breaches the walls of a stronghold in battle, its intention is not to destroy the whole wall, but just enough for the troops to enter. The fact that the spies used a scarlet line to climb out of Rahab's window gives some indication of their height, which is estimated to have been up to 15 meters. There is enough height and weight here for the wall to fall beneath itself once the implosion is triggered from the bottom. Among some of the most outrageous theories are an acoustic weapon theory and a laser beam Ark of the Covenant theory. Many incline towards a cannon theory, but none of these are necessary to collapse a wall, and they are the least effective. The simplest and most effective method is to let its own weight destroy it, and a controlled implosion would be the most effective, whether it be by the hand of God or that of man. The fact that the settlement had a double wall enclosure is very revealing, because it means not one but 2 walls would have had to fall, and at the same time. As archaeological evidence shows this to be the case, the most plausible explanation is an earthquake, which God always uses to destroy mighty foundations built upon lawlessness and pride. Whatever generated the earthquake scarring this ancient settlement was supernatural and very awesome in power. What else then did the Israelites have in their possession that shared these qualities and might help explain this miracle rationally?